Let's start creating a new camera. Right-click inside our timeline, and with the new voice you can choose camera. Inside we have many parameters that allows us to have a better control of our camera. First of all, we have to say that these four values, film size, focal length, zoom and angle of view, are all together related to create an image who match the size of the timeline composition. What does it mean? When we create our composition, we put some value inside its settings. These values are the size of the picture that we need to create to do our job. So the size of the composition is 720 under in width and 576 in height pixel. So when we create a new camera layer, all these values are locked together to create an image who match perfectly the composition we have created. So if we change our film size maybe into 150, as you can see, any other value can change it. As we change the focal length, we are changing the zoom and the angle of view. Here we have the control over this value. We can choose the unit of this value, that can be in pixel, inches or millimeters, and we can choose a different way to measure the film size for horizontally, vertically or diagonally. Also here we have the opportunity to choose to activate the depth of field. The depth of fields allow us to focus one object depending on his distance from the camera. All the objects that are in a specific distance that is controlled by this value down here are perfectly visualized from the camera. All the other objects are blurry from the camera, so are not very focused in our view. So now we are going to see what does it mean better. So we have created our camera, and as for all the others level, we can choose to move the camera. First of all, activate camera 1 from this viewport. The camera 1 is always created in the default position that match, in this case, the active camera that was the default one. But now that we have chosen the camera, we can move it, and here on the right side we can see the different the changing in our point of view. Also, we can rotate our camera, but about rotation we have to say something. First of all, focus this point. This point is the point of interest of our camera, and also right now is his rotation. As we try to rotate our camera, we receive this message that we are changing the orientation away from his point of interest. And the command that we can use is inside the layer menu, transform, and is auto oriented, to put again these two values together. What does it mean? If we open our camera layer, inside the transform value we have two values, point of interest and orientation. As you can see now, our orientation is 0, 0, 0, and these 2 points match perfectly. As we rotate our camera, we are changing our orientation value, and as you can see, our point of interest is still here, is still where we leave before the rotation, where we leave it before the rotation. Instead, we are changing our orientation. But if we put once again our orientation value back to 0, the 2 points match perfectly together. Of course, changing the position of the point of interest change also the rotation, the orientation of our camera. We also have the opportunity to have a rotation control about our object. The rotation value doesn't change the orientation, but it put away the orientation point away from the point of interest. We can choose to manipulate these two values separately, or we can choose to use only one or the other. The final result is always the same. We created a depth of field inside our camera, so now let's create, for instance, a text layer here. We write just test, and here inside our perspective view, first of all we have to activate the 3D for our layer, and here inside our perspective view let's pick up the object and move closer to the camera. As you can see now, the point is getting closer. Okay, a little closer. Okay, now we have our object, our text layer very close to our camera, and this solid layer far away from the camera. If we open up our camera, just below the transform options we have the camera options. The camera options allows us to choose if we want our depth of field active or not. Just clicking, we can turn on and off our depth of field layer. Here we have the preview of the point of interest in our focal length, so we can adjust our focus distance, getting far from the camera or getting close to the camera. Also we can choose our aperture, that allows us to create a different visualization of our depth of field. Also we can choose our blur level. Of course the camera can be animated, so first of all create a first keyframe here, and maybe at photogram 15 we can get far from our object. As you can see in the animation, the depth of field works perfectly. As the point of interest is matching our text layer, the imaging is getting sharp, and when it moves away closer or further, the text solid layer becomes blurry.